Today we're at the LBG Medical headquarters talking about the new Bio-Unified Foot Orthotic. This is a prefab appliance. It's a full width orthotic. It's made out of polypropylene. It's very thin plantar bulk at the base with this first ray dell and groove down here. So the question always comes up, why another prefab? There are thousands of prefabricated orthoses on the market, and there is that point of it's not broken, let's not fix it. However, it's not always about that. Sometimes it's about going back to the start and seeing if we make things better. Now, the Bio-Unified was made with some issues with prefabricated orthotics in mind to try to either eradicate or reduce these issues when supplying a patient with a prefabricated appliance. The main issues we've always had with prefabricated orthotics appear to be the dependency on historic theories such as subtalar joint neutral theory, poor durability, large bulk, inability to add modifications to an orthotic without making it bulky, and first-ray impingement. We're going to go through those all one at a time to show how the Bio-Unified reduces those adverse parts of prefab orthoses, and show how to make one towards the end. So we'll start off talking about the theory behind the Unified. So the Unified theory was first published by myself and Lawrence Bevan back in 2009 in the American Journal of Podiatric Medicine, and has a few British publications before then. And the principle behind it is most of the historic aspects of podiatric theory have things in common to unify what's gone before, make it easier to teach and to work clinically with. And if you look at the main theories of podiatry and foot function and gait, they appear to have the same orthotic outcome, and that appears to be an effort not to impinge on first-ray function and to reduce pronation moments across the subtalar joint axis. So we're looking at things that can impinge on first-ray function. One of those is a high-arched orthotic. That will actually push the first ray up or increase the dorsiflexion moments under the first ray. When you push the first ray up, theoretically, it stops the hallux from rotating, and that was shown by Rukis back in the 1990s. So when you look at an appliance, anything which has a high amount of pressure beneath the first ray can theoretically, therefore, make the foot work differently. That doesn't mean the patient won't get better. We've talked about this many times. Someone walking differently may offload one structure and onload another one. But the idea with an orthotic is we offload what hurts and we try to make someone walk in a more normative way. So, on the Bio-Unified orthotic here, the first ray dell is actually cut, ground out of the shell itself. So you have this ditch, if you like, underneath the first ray. What that does, it keeps the orthotic full width, while letting the first ray, in layman's terms, letting the first ray drop down. That full width is quite important because anyone who prescribes orthotics often or cuts first ray out often will know if you cut the first ray out, the orthotic can quite simply move medially in the shoe. So you get a fifth ray cutout, not a first ray cutout. So these first ray dells, or grooves, as we call it on the Bio-Unified, allows that first ray not to be impinged while reducing pronation moments. That, which can be prescribed as a 3/4, is also thrown over onto the top cover, where the top cover also has a first ray groove in there. So when you actually stick the top cover onto the Bio-Unified, it looks like so, with that first ray groove already delled down, ready to let you reduce your pronation moments and not impinge on first ray function. So that's the first thing we have different with the Bio-Unified. The next thing we have is the modifications that come with the pack. So in the pack you'll have all the normal additions of the varus posting or valgus posting, depending how you stick it on, the cushions and the heel raises. You also can have something called a MOSI addition on there. Now the MOSI, M-O-S-I, stands for Medial, Oblique, Shell, Inclination. So that was first published in the Podiatry Now journal in the UK, and then 2011 in JAPMA, as a method of reducing pronation moments optimally. Now, by that it means we're going to work with the axis of the foot. Now, all the diagrams of subtalar joint axis and MOSI are available on the LBG educational website section under the webinar we're doing today. I'm going to show you briefly how that works on the orthotic here. So quite often people will come into clinic and have one foot pronating more than the other one, and you want to address that because that links to their symptom. So you have an option, if you were to use a total rear foot post, of putting a larger post on one side than the other one, or actually putting no post on one side at all and just wedge one side. The issue with this is when you put a total rear foot wedge on, it raises the heel. You see there, if you were to stick this on one orthotic and nothing on the other side, you're going to have around about a 3 to 4 millimeter heel raise, which is an adverse effect to an orthotic, which you may not want. You may not want to raise that person's heel, and it can cause obviously gait adaptations and postural adaptations elsewhere. A way around that is to use a one-sided hemi-post-op appliance, so you wedge, and that would of course stick on so. Yeah. Now by splitting it there, and I'm showing you this with EVA rather than the total wedges, like that, you get to wedge on the medial side of the axis, the medial side of the heel, reduce pronation moments, okay, layman's terms, push up on the inside of the heel, without raising the actual heel height. You can see the heel sinks into the base there. What you have with the BioUnified is the ability not to just give a total post if you want to, yeah, or even a medial heel skive type one-sided incline. Yeah, we have the Mosai adaptations built into the actual appliance you'll be getting, built into the pack which comes with the BioUnified. Now, Mosai stands for Medial Oblique Shell Inclination. And quite simply, all that is a wedge on the back of the orthotic angled with or in the general direction of the subtalar joint axis. Now, the subtalar joint axis moves medially as the foot pronates. This is demonstrated in some slides on the webinar, which we're also uploading today on the LBG medical educational part of their website. So if the axis of the subtalar joint is pointing over here, yeah, which is where most medial axes would point to in a pronated foot, yeah, you want to line your actual wedging up with it. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is, if you line up with the axis, you're pushing with the axis and not against it. So if you imagine, if you're having a shell, which is just wedged up on the inside here, but your axis is pointing at an angle over here, what you're doing is you're not pushing with the axis, you're pushing against it, and you'll actually slide the foot off the shell slightly. With the Mosai, you actually can line up with the axis and get a greater amount of orthotic reaction force, reducing the pronation without then sliding them off the shell and causing that quite frequent lateral impingement down the edge of the shell. So a Mosai can be added to the Unified Theory appliance on this side here. By doing so, you reduce the pronation moments. Yeah, you do not slide the patient laterally off the shell. You can therefore theoretically apply more wedging before there's an issue, yeah, and it doesn't raise the heel. The question would be, how many Mosai wedges would you put on? How much do you post? And that comes into prescription protocol. But the main thing with an orthotic with a Mosai is you would apply the wedge, this links into the Unified Theory, until not only do you offload the injured structure, but you watch gait and posture improve. So 2 points we can work with together here are the limitation to shell shape modification and comfort. Because of course prefabricated appliances aren't made to the shape of the patient's foot, and if orthotics aren't comfortable, they don't work. And the thing with, certainly in my clinic and in many clinics, you're going to have people come in with adult acquired flat foot posterior tibial tendon dysfunction, the feet shape which doesn't fit into the normal classic average contour. And you look at the prefab and you think there's 2 reasons not to prescribe a prefab. One is it could be too high under the arch, pushing the first ray up, stopping you using your hallux for normal propulsion. The next one is of course comfort. If orthotics aren't comfortable, they don't work. Yeah, and we don't want patients coming back with appliances that don't work just because they are just pushing slightly on the wrong place of the foot and causing discomfort. So the material used from the BioUnified is a polypropylene which is heat moldable. Now that means with a pair of Kevlar gloves, and we'll show you this in a second, yeah, the shell can be heated and lowered in set areas. And I'm going to show it a case example in a second, how you can lower it quite extensively if you have some plantar pressure, plantar navicular area, which is just more prominent, which is quite classic in the adult acquired flat foot, which means you're looking towards a custom appliance to try to hug away from there, when these days actually with the new polypropylene shells, we can modify around that. So we'll pretend we have a patient come in. They have a right foot which is relatively normal, a foot posture 6 index, say a +3, +4, but a left foot which has a posterior tibial tendon dysfunction and it's progressed to quite a stage, so the FPI 6 is +10. Now the contour on the left side is going to be lower than the right, yeah, and maybe some prominence below the navicular, causing some issues with giving any type apart from a custom orthotic. Now that's when the BioUnified can be used, where traditional problems with prefabs may have stopped. The first thing is, when we look at the shells here, they are the same on both sides. We want this one to be lower, maybe a little bit even flatter or even delled beneath that navicular area where there's a little bit of irritation from a shell, possibly due to that prominence of the joint. So we'll start off by lowering the shell. Now, what we would do to know how much we lower it is put the shell actually next to the patient's foot and stand them up on it and see where we can find the pressure areas and then reduce it from there. So all we have here is the blowtorch again, and we're just going to heat the section. Again, keep it over the vague area, even with Kevlar gloves on. Try not to put it straight at your hand. So here we're just heating this. Yep, so this is now hot, and we're just going to bend it down. You do that on the work surface if you wish to. That bending down lowers the shape of the shell where you apply that force. So in a second we'll work through that. And then you see here you start to get a shell shape, different on both sides. We've got a lower contour now on the left and the right. We can get the patient to stand on that, check it's comfortable, check there's no pressure points, ask the patient for feedback, does that feel comfortable? And if it does, we're going to go on to the next stage. So the next stage is going to be applying some medial posting, and this one over here. Now, because you have a medial axis in this patient, we're going to apply the posting, the wedging, medial as well, the medial oblique shell inclination, the MOSI. Now, here's some wedging I've stuck together already, but in the packs with the Biounified, you'll get the actual MOSI wedges ready to stick on, and that'll be stuck on an oblique angle like so. With the posting here, with this MOSI posting, we haven't caused one heel to be higher than the other one. We haven't caused a heel raise, because the actual heel will still go down this deep, which is the same as the other side, while we have this posting on the medial side. Now, what we're going to do to finish this off with comfort is we're going to put on a top cover. The top covers, as we said at the start of this, have this first ray dell already in there too, this groove, this first ray groove, and that will again work with these here. So with double-sided sticky tape, which comes already on the top covers, we can just put this on like so. And what you have immediately, looking from the front there, is an orthotic with, and you put the top cover the other side as well, of course, to make it the same, with a high degree of MOSI angulation there to reduce the pronation moment and offload that posterior tibial tendon. You have not caused an issue with having one heel higher than the other one. You've not caused an issue with discomfort because you've modified the shell shape. And by doing all this, you have an orthotic which stays together well and is totally durable. Now, if you then thought, actually, I want to change that, I'm not happy with the addition I've made here, these are all removable. These are all backward, to be engineered backwards. So if we just take all this off for now, which should be very difficult with the proper gluing, we have this double-sided sticky tape for the demonstration today, we have this difference in shell shape, and we decided that actually we want more of a dell, or even less of a dell. We want to bring the arch height back up, or you think you've made a mistake, you don't want to make it that low. This is not set here again. All you have to do, if you want to put any differences to that shell shape, make the dell larger, for example, and actually that's what I'll show you today. So when you put them together, and rather than raise the arch height, you want to lower it more, what you would do is heat one section specifically, and push that section down, and you can see there that you start to get a lowering of the shell in the area you want. And you can of course apply that for some duration of time, and you'll get a larger dell. So what you have is a way of making an orthotic which you're not dependent on using a subtalar joint neutral theory or any other historic theory, which limits you to 4 degrees or 6 degrees of posting. You can use whatever is needed to offload the structure and improve gait. You've got an orthotic which is totally modifiable, shape changeable, so you don't cause irritation to the plantar aspect of the foot. It's comfortable, so it works. You've got an orthotic where you can put a MOSI post on. So that MOSI will let you put as much wedging as required on the shell without raising the heel. Yeah? You have an appliance which won't fall apart quickly. Yeah? And most importantly of all, it's one which can be issued immediately to the patient with the most complex of foot problems. So thank you for watching the video today. If you have any other questions, LBG Medical have a contact us section on their editorial part of their website. The Biounified appliance is designed to try to release the podiatrist from being stuck with historic theory, which limits what we do. It lets us use our knowledge and gait analysis correctly to see outcomes. Keep this as functional as possible while putting this in many shoes. Thank you for watching.